Every single sale is the same. What do you guys think that means? Every single sale is the same. I know a lot of people feel like it's not, but what do you think that means?
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
What if every single sale is the same, A to Z, every single aspect of it? No matter what, the only thing that changes sometimes is the order a little bit in our mind. And so we talked about what makes top producers in sales, no matter what they do, is they're able to take all the pieces and the chaos and organize it in the same way, in the same order every single time. So they can see all the pieces on the board and they move them instantly in the right area, and that's what we call syntax. And so I'm going to go what we talked about, just the 12 steps of every single sale. Look how they're the same. A lot of us have been through this on the most part, but I think it's a great reminder, because even as I was going back through studying some of this stuff, it's just a thing that slips through the cracks a lot of times for agents, especially in your first few years. And so that's the key thing, is we want to focus on goal-oriented communication. What do you think that means? Goal-oriented communication.
Every conversation has an outcome.
Yeah, every communication is perfect.
Yeah, I'd say almost every single word, right? So if I'm in goal-oriented communication, every sentence, every word, everything has a purpose in how I'm saying it. I'm not just there to talk and to freelance or whatever it is. I'm there to have a goal-oriented conversation in every single part, right? Goal-oriented communication. And so the brain must order the right things in the right sequence, and that's kind of what syntax is in that aspect, all right? And so, number one, what's the first thing you guys do? Anybody idea? Just don't tell me if I'm teaching, if I should be teaching this or not. Anybody know the step one? Yeah. Just any sale. All right. Good. All right. So we're good. This works. Number one, first thing I must do, I must take control of the sale. What that means? Right. Yeah. Everything else. What else? I must take immediate control of the encounter. I must be perceived as the expert, qualified. And there's a saying that he says a lot of time, which is what? Remember, Ryan? Sharp as attack. Yep, enthusiastic as hell, sharp as attack. So the first 4 seconds, right, I'm coming in, I'm taking control of that sale. I must take control of the room. Why is that? Because people are trained and conditioned to trust the expert. I've got to have the expert energy, the expert dress, the way I come across, the way if I'm shaved or not, do I have too much jewelry on? All this stuff matters, and he talks about that. But the reality is I must do one thing when I come in. I must take immediate control of the encounter. And so it could be a phone call, it could be a face-to-face. This is also through showing the property, through negotiating, through talking on the phone to a seller who's bitching about something they should be bitching about. I got to take control of that encounter. Why? Because I'm the expert. And I do that all the time. Kelly talks about it. I have this thing that I always tend to say when people say, let's get real clear. That means I'm about to lay into your ass as a client, whoever it is, because what am I doing? Taking control of the encounter, because I want to get to the facts and not what the feelings are. And so that's the key part here. I got to make sure I have that energy and certainty where they feel me when I come in and sit down in that room. So the minute I walk in there, more than anything, if I have an appointment downstairs, I want to be there waiting for them in the conference room or in the office, whatever it is, so I'm taking control of that sale. I'm not stomping down the stairs 35 seconds later, right, coming through, opening the door. Who's in control right there? Not you, right? I want to be prepared to have that ahead of time. Makes a big difference. Number two, step two, gather intelligence. What do you think that means? There's a type of questions. I must ask smart questions, right? This is important. You do that by asking smart questions. If you're not in control, you're not able to ask the right questions. There are certain things we need to know, which is pain points, desires, do they qualify, etc. So my intel must really be two things I'm looking for. The pain threshold, that's the most important thing I can have any sale. Why is that? Because that's the only reason people do stuff in our world. Some type of pain, or they're trying to get to a status. And so I got to be able to ask the deep questions. Now, those questions got to be thought out. We really learned a lot about this when we started going through our Thursday objection handling. Some people weren't asking questions at all, right? They weren't asking specific questions about time or experience or past or whatever it is. And so I needed to be able to cover all my bases from a sales standpoint. How do I do this? I practice questions. I get with people on my team and ask questions. Hey, what do you say? This is something you got to get very good at. I got to identify which rabbit hole to go down. So if they say something about this and about, well, we're having a baby, but we're still living at our mommy's house, guess what I do? I go down that rabbit hole. I'm asking the wife how that feels or whatever it is. I'm going down there to ask second and third level questions. And so I want the key thing takeaway here is I'm asking smart questions. And smart is second and third level. What's second and third level question mean? Somebody has answered that before. Matt, do you know what a second and third level question is?
You still want to be living in the basement after the baby's born? Or you guys still want to have your mother and father in the same house as you while you're trying to raise your child?
Yes. And what helps us here, I'll give better colors than you can see, is number 3. And number 3 has to be done simultaneously number 2. Number 3 has got to build massive rapport. This is important because it has to do with how I answer the questions. So I build massive rapport. Here's the thing, right? It happens simultaneously. If I ask the questions and I come across as a grand inquisitor, right? They feel like I'm just asking questions. What happens to rapport? It goes out the window. They feel like you're just grilling them. And you got to be aware of this, hyper aware of this really, of how am I asking my questions? How does that matter? What matters the most when I'm asking my questions? Tonality. And so if I'm not recording myself, I don't even know if I sound like a jackass when I'm asking questions, much less when I get to the presentation on the back end. And if I lost their trust when I'm asking questions on the discovery, guess what happens? The presentation I give doesn't matter because they already don't like me. And so that's why it's so important to record there. But I want to come across as an expert. I want to come across like the family friend. So why is it important for you guys? What's most important in the process, right? What's not important? What do you guys experienced before? I want to come across like the family doctor. If I have anything, I'm the family real estate doctor. If I'm sitting down, they're diagnosing, right? That matters for me to do. And so I think a lot of us sometimes may not be in rapport how we're asking our questions. Same thing on the telephone. Your tonality matters, right? You're looking to make a move next few months. If you were to make a move, what do you think that may be? Do you have an agent to help you when the time is right? If people are getting mad at you when you ask that question, guess what? That's a tonality problem. It's not a question problem. And so that's one thing that really recording and listening to makes the biggest difference for that part. But the thing to remember is 2 and 3 happen in simultaneously. I got to gather intel and I got to build massive rapport and stay in massive rapport, which makes a massive, massive difference. Leads number 4. Number 4 is my transition. It's a smooth transition from gathering intel to now is where I start the straight line of my sale. And it's got to usually be done with words. It can't be tricky or sneaky because then what happens to them? Yes, I got to make sure they shut down because their antennas go up like this dude's trying to get me. So I got to remain ultra tight rapport here. And so I'm staying connected tonality-wise. I'm staying connected energetically. And they feel connected to me in our conversation. Right? You have all the intelligence. You put yourself in the position for the transition. Simple stuff. Hey, based on what you said to me, John and Mary, this is a perfect fit for you. Whatever it is, right? Unless it be your intent statement, right? You know how agency works. You have to have a smooth transition. And so if you're not recording and you're not analyzing your presentations, you don't know how smooth your transition is. And if I mess up on 1, 2, 3, or 4, guess what? My presentation doesn't mean because it compounds. And so this process is followed the same way every single time, which is super important. Number 5, give the straight line presentation. With us, that's our presentation, unfair advantage system or guaranteed sold system. What does a straight line mean? Right? We know a sale based on a straight line looks like this. I have my intro, first 4 seconds here, right? Things are happening. Right here, is where my presentation is. I got to make sure I'm staying in the straight line. What does it mean if I get far off the straight line? My sale's screwed. I'm outside of rapport. I'm outside the process. I've lost the interest. I've lost everything in that aspect. And so this is simple stuff, but here's the thing. These are the fundamentals that we mess up on. This is people who fumble the football at the 3-yard line. Right? And so I got to be aware and make sure I'm on top of that. I got to make sure I'm very smooth. So I have to make sure, 1, am I clear on what my transition is? How do I do it? When do I do it? When do I feel good? Some people I know based on our Thursday meetings are making the transition too early without getting enough intel. And so all these pieces matter, which is important for us in that aspect. The straight line presentation obviously is our features, benefits of exactly what they need and how it will solve their problems. I'm associating their pain to how we solve the problem for them. That means I have to go back and reference what my pain is that I know from my intel, and then I got to weave that in to my straight line presentation. And as we know, the straight line at the end, they need to be a 10 on what? Me. Number 1, me. Number 10, product, I think. And the third one is what? Company. This straight line, obviously 1 to 10, you can see what that is. I'm moving them through that process, which is important. The order is crucial. Number 1, make sure I nail it, execute. Number 2, execute. Number 3, execute. Number 4, execute it. And then 5, I make sure I got to nail my presentation. This one becomes a little bit fluid. Number 6, what do you guys think number 6 is? Number 6 is ask for the order, aka close. What's that look like?
Ask them to sign.
Yep, it's got to be very specific. Right? On the seller side, hey, assuming that we come to agreement what the value of your home is, do you feel okay with us handling the sale for you today? Right? Or whatever it is. Who's got one on the buy side? What is it?
Would you be okay with me representing you throughout this entire process?
Right? What else? Good one? What else?
After everything you've seen here today, would you be comfortable having us handle your purchase?
Yep. Do you feel comfortable us handling the purchase for you? Right? Do you feel comfortable us representing you in the sale? Makes a big difference, right? That's the key part. And I used to always say, all I ask for is your loyalty to us, as a realtor, whatever they say, yes, great, you feel comfortable, let's handle the sale for you. Boom, done deal. Now, that brings you up to, there are certain, obviously, rules in this. What matters the most here? My energy, certainty, and tonality. Energy, certainty, tonality. Because if I lack either one of those, what happens to their trust? Gone. So number 6, right? Energy, certainty, tonality. Just super important. It's a great review for everybody, right? Because a lot of times there are certain things, if I had to gauge or measure every part of my presentation, there's some shit that I'm messing up on. Always. And so I want to go back and listen to my presentations based on this scale here and figure out where I'm at. Now, number 7. Most cases, what happens, we ask them, this is where this separates the good salespeople from the average or shitty salespeople. Number 7 is what we call deflection. That's what I'm looking for. So all objections are smoke screens for uncertainty. Say that one again for you guys. All objections are smoke screens for uncertainty. So if they tell you in your presentation, hey, this looks great, but we want to think about it, that's a lot easier for them to tell you than to say that I don't trust you. That's a lot easier to say, there's something just about you, man. I don't know if I trust you and want to work with you. It's kind of hard for the consumer to say that, so they're going to tell you, you know what? This looks great. I need to talk to my husband. I need to talk to my wife. And in looking a lot of times, I think if we're seeing some that aren't signing lately, the reality is you just didn't have enough certainty in your presentation for them to want to work with you. Everything looked good, smelled good, feels good, but the reality was there wasn't enough certainty in your voice and your energy and your aura that they feel comfortable like you can get them to the finish line. And that's what they're thinking, hey, can this person actually get me to the finish line and save me money and give me what I want? I understand what you're saying, but I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question.
Does the idea make sense?
Yes, there we go. Does the idea make sense to you? 7 words, I think, right? Whatever it is. I hear what you're saying. Let me ask you a question. Does the idea make sense to you? That's my first deflection. Next question you can say, part of that, we taught this before. Do you like the idea? So, I think Kat, you had one recently. Who else had a couple ones? Patrick had one. What is it? At the end, if we're getting the deflection, I think what we're folding is we're not asking that question. You didn't ask that question, right? You probably didn't even know about that question, maybe. I don't think you were here when we talked this last time. But when they say, I want to talk to my husband or wife, right, what can we do? Deflect it, right? St. Patrick, you got it, whatever. Hey, I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question. Does the idea make sense to you? What am I doing? Here, it's like a mini loop. I'm looping them back in. Because it's hard for them to say, well, no, it doesn't make sense. Right? Well, do you like the idea? Yes. So you tell me it does make sense to you and you like the idea. right? And what I do, I'm able to sell them and increase their certainty. But that's buying me a little bit of time to understand, hey, guess what? They're not a 10, 10, 10 right here. So I got to figure out where they're not a 10 at. Is it me? Most likely it's you. This presentation works pretty well. It's pretty identified. It's got every single thing they could ever imagine on there to give credibility, right? Fox, Forbes, NBC, all the stuff you need right there to have that. And so usually most time it's you, which is important. So number 8, we're going to run our first looping pattern. Give you guys a visual. So a visual, right? I come in. Here's the first 4 seconds. I'm making in, right? I go through step 1, step 2, step 3. And right here, they give me an objection. Well, I need to talk to my wife. I need to think about it. So what I got to do here in my first loop is what? Go back here to this aspect, loop back into that, and I'll start reselling. Anybody remember the part that works that does that?
Say that again?
Do you remember the word track that we use?
Yeah, so you ask the question, hey, does this idea at least make sense to you? And they said, yeah, absolutely. And then something along the lines of, they tell you what they like about it, so you say exactly the true beauty is, and then you go back, and you're going back and reselling them
Yes.
exactly what they told you.
I was looking for that word track.
Yeah.
Exactly. In fact, the true beauty is boom, 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 boom. In fact, the true beauty is now I want to get you in that house that you guys have been dreaming for, right? Getting you priority access to all the other listings before anyone else. So you're not riding around looking at properties anymore, calling for sale signs on properties that sold 3 weeks ago. Do you think that's something that will benefit you? Yes. Right? Whatever it is. And I'm reiterating every single thing I said, but I'm adding in what I think the missing pieces are. AK, here's why I'm good, here's why I'm qualified, here's why we're good. Oh yeah, did you see us on Forbes? Whatever it is. I must loop back and handle the connection between the pain points and obviously their desires. Yes. And what that really means, I probably didn't weave that tight enough the first time around. And there's other 2 reasons behind this too that do make a difference that we'll talk about as well. We'll come back to that part, right? We have to raise their certainty, and then obviously we ask for the order a second time. Now, in that case, guess what? They may say no still, which is okay. But you can see how the average salesperson has already done what at this point? Given up. They already packed their shit up, and they're back in the car, staring at the sky while they're driving, trying to figure out what they fucked up on, right? The good closer salesperson knows what they're doing. Number 9? Number 9, we got to lower their action threshold. So every single human being has a preset level of certainty they need to be at before they buy. Some people sell really easily. A lot of great salespeople, guess what? They buy really easily. That's why it's very easy for them to sell somebody because they're sold in the product themselves. They're sold in everything else. Some people, specifically ones that are more analytical, they have very high threshold of that. And so we got to loop back through that and go back through and lower their action threshold. That's going to be looping in pain, looping other things. So we're going to do another loop here for you guys in this aspect where I'm going back and looping in their action threshold. How do you change someone's action threshold? Hey, John, let me ask you a question. What's the worst that could happen? Because what's that do? Makes him look at like, all right, dude, this ain't as bad as it could be. But how many times you'll ask that when somebody tells you no? Right? Well, I got to talk to my wife. Go back through that, do a leap. Hey, look, John, let me ask you this. What's the worst that can happen? She going to divorce you? Right? Have you made decisions like this before in your past? Whatever it is. And you want them to answer. And there's a second part of that question. You guys remember what that is? So the first part is, hey, John, let me ask you this. What's the worst that can happen? Well, she get pissed at me. She won't talk to me for 3 days. Okay, is that realistic, John? Did she know you're coming here today? Whatever it is. She going to really divorce you over you making a great decision for your family, for you guys, getting access to this, whatever your situation is, right? There's a thing up. But on the upside, what am I doing? Future pacing. But on the upside, what I can do for you will blank. But on the upside, John, what this can do for you, get you guys signed up and get you priority access to all the hottest new listings before anyone else so that you're no longer wasting your wife's time driving around calling a damn for sale sign or some listing online that's already been bought by somebody else in the know. So, John, your wife's probably not going to be too pissed at you for you guys finally getting to the know because she's probably tired of you guys riding around calling on properties they already sold. Would you agree? Number 10, I'm lowering their pain threshold. There's 2 ways to look at it. I look at it as raising their pain, basically. I'm going back to the pain, going back to the intel. There's a question I ask. John, when we first spoke, you said that you blank. You said that you were looking for houses for 6 months now. You said that you had a terrible experience with some idiot agent from whatever place, right? You said that you had to move by January 1st this year. Go back to what they told you in the intel and use that against them because they need it. Why? Because they believe their own. What's going to happen if we don't resolve this issue? Or you can say, what's going to happen if you don't resolve this issue? I would change my word based on my rapport with them. So if I feel like we're bros, I'm like, John, what's going to happen if we don't solve this issue? But if I want him to feel alone and to feel the pain himself a little bit, John, what's going to happen if you guys don't solve this issue? So, one last time. Hey, John, when we first spoke, you said that you blank. What's going to happen if you don't solve this issue? Let them talk, let them talk, let them talk. Why don't we start with blank? Why don't we start with getting the property listed on the market at the higher price that you mentioned for 30 days, and then we can adjust after that if needed. Number 11, almost done. I will ask for the order again. How would you do that? Without your part, yeah, when we go ahead and get started, right? All I need you guys to sign right here. Do you guys feel comfortable moving ahead today? You ready to get started? Same thing. Hey, you ready to put me to work? Shake their hand. That's the best one. Obviously, it's a little weird with COVID right now, but the reality is you ready to go ahead and get started working with the best. And number 12, the final line is I want to create a customer for life. We covered this yesterday a little bit. It's a great reminder. We want to make a one-time customer into a raving fan. How do I do that? I do what I said I was going to do. I deliver. I set their search up the same day. Have the photographer there the next day, whatever it is, depending on what side I'm on. I got to make sure I deliver and do what I said I was going to do with certainty. You know, we talked about the training yesterday for Success School. The average client in today's thing at $250,000, average sale price is worth $180,000 over 20 years. If I have 100 clients who send me one referral a year, over 20 years, that's $18 million. It's fascinating. But the one thing we don't do is create the raving fans for life because we don't call them after like we're supposed to. If I look at the value of that customer and what it costs to acquire, but also lifetime value of that customer being $180,000 at the end, over time in my career, I'm going to push very, very hard in closing when it gets uncomfortable because I know this person can be worth one referral a year for the next 20 years, minimum. And so it's much more than missing the one sale. It's much more than missing that one signed client. You're talking about $180,000 commission for the next 20 years if I can do this right.